Okay, so yeah, we're gonna look at this cheat sheet thing, and yeah, we're gonna go off the cheat sheet here, and I'm gonna go over characters individually first, and then we're gonna talk about the different classes and stuff, and my thoughts on them. So we're gonna start with tier 1, work our way up tier 3, tier 2, tier 3, etc., etc. All right, so let's just start off with, like I said, tier 1 characters. So starting with nobles here, Vayne. Vayne's like, she's not the worst AD carry, but definitely needs like help in terms of just getting her going. It doesn't necessarily have to come. I guess her best strength is, yeah, her classes work with a lot of other comps, or two other comps specifically, that are both good. Rangers, who we're going to talk about in a bit, are phenomenal, and nobles are, nobles. I don't really want to get into them right now, but yeah, just putting attack speed on her, her ability passive thing is nice. Nothing really to write home about. But yeah, if it's just kind of her on her own without too much support, it feels super lackluster. Even with a couple items, if it's just like she's not working with any kind of class specific thing, it's pretty shitty. But again, there's stuff you can do with her, so not the worst tier 1. Fiora sucks. She sucks. She's so goddamn underwhelming. I've tried to make her work. Again, she works with some other classes, noble, Blade Master, so if you need one for one of those, okay, but generally speaking, she feels like dead weight 90% of the time. Garen, he's a strong early game carry thing. I'm not the biggest fan of the Knight class, but it's not bad. Again, nobles are nobles. I don't want to talk about nobles, so we're going to just avoid that again. They also recently nerfed him, didn't they? Especially considering that. So spin damage went down, and like that gimmick thing people were doing, putting Rellenomicons on him, that's also been nerfed, so not as good as he was. Alright, moving on to the Void tier 1s. We got Kha'Zix here, who is like, I'm not saying he's the least of the assassins, but he is a tier 1 assassin. When you want to get Void going as just sort of a side buff for better classes, usually Kha'Zix ends up being the first to go. But he's not horrible. I mean, some people like assassins more than I do, so I could see people using him more. I just don't like, assassins are good, I just don't like really doing them that much. Kassadin, he's useful as being like, I guess really only the only tank sorcerer really, unless, of course you get a Yumi's thing and put, sorcerer on an actual tank. So he can be nice. On his own, he never goes utterly apeshit. I've seen people do super gimmicky stuff, with, doing multiple rage blades and stuff on him. But even then, it's just kind of like, again, he's good, but not like broken good like other things can be with multiple items. So he's okay. I don't mind him. He's also very annoying for his mana drain, mainly. But next we got Darius. Darius is okay. Another early game knight. You can never really go wrong with early game knights. They're early game knights. But nothing super amazing late game. It's nice if you want to obviously go an Imperial comp. All right, next Mordekaiser, another Imperial, not Imperial, early game knight. He's okay on his own. Mainly, he's just very easy to get the whole Phantom thing going. And Kindred is such a good character that works. And Phantom is such an easy thing to do, just slot into other things. So yeah, really that's Mordekaiser's main use. It's easy Phantom, because Phantom works with basically anything. Or most things. Alright, next we're going to move on to Graves. Graves, super gimmicky. You can get him to work. He's the kind of character that people will tell you is good, but they're basically remembering the one time out of 1,000 where you got the exact right items on the exact right comp. And he looks kind of neat, and it's therefore more noteworthy, but he's super inconsistent. Pirates suck. Gunslingers are not even that great. Basically, gunslingers, we'll talk about more of those in a bit, but they're bootleg rangers, basically. So yeah, maybe not the worst character of the game, but he's down there somewhere. Because, this game is all about basically being good consistently, not really good periodically. So, yeah, not a fan of the Graves. Oh, if anyone's incidentally wondering what the hell I'm talking about, theoretically can be good. It's just like, getting a bunch of specific, red buff style items on him or debuffs on him and stuff like that. But really, he's just kind of like, he's a bronze player that occasionally finds himself in, you know, a team full of diamonds or something, and then he wins, and because he's fed, he can get a couple of extra kills on other diamond players. It doesn't mean the character or the player is diamond. It means they're a bronze player that got carried. Okay, Yordle, so Tristana, probably the shittiest AD carry off the top of my head. There might be something worse if I, like, line them all up. But yeah, Gunslingers, again, not a fan. They can technically work, but they're basically just worse Rangers. Yordle is okay, we'll talk about that in a minute, but generally speaking, a lot of mediocre things resulting in a mediocre character. Next, Warwick. Warwick is good because he is wild and brawler, two things that are extremely easy to work with. The character himself is medium, but he comes with a bunch of good classes. So don't rely on Warwick to go apeshit and murder everyone for you, even with a lot of items. He's mainly just there to clog things up and buff other people with his classes. Nidalee is very, very good. As people become more experienced in the game, maybe not quite as good. She was just kind of like broken on her, not broken, but you know, she was really, really good just on her own when everyone was less efficient. But yeah, wild plus shapeshifter, both extremely good things. And as a character, if you kind of invest items in her, she can basically carry through all the entire game, unless someone does something really crazy on the enemy team. Yeah, just a good, solid character. Probably one of the better tier 1s. Easy to get, easy to buff up, easy to work with other people. Okay, so that should be all the tier 1s. Let's go to tier 2 now. Lucian, I feel like, I'm not sure about right now, and going into the future, he might get more credit. I feel like he's a bit underrated. He's, like, if you really want to do the gunslinger thing, you know, you can kind of work off of him. He himself as a character is decent. Again, he's a slightly more rare, so you'd expect him to be a better AD carry. Yeah, again, like Noble Gunslinger. I've done Noble Gunslinger as a comp, so he like slots into that very easily. He's a character you could theoretically build around if, you know, you had the right parts to work with. So a bit situational, but getting to be better. Let's see now, Rek'Sai. Rek'Sai is basically the worst Cho'Gath, Void Brawler. Yeah, second female, isn't it? So she is just very underwhelming. And I don't know what this is. It might just be bad luck, but I feel like some characters seem more rare than others despite their actual listed rarity. It's weird. So I don't know. Whenever you want Rek'Sai to kind of like tide you over or something, you never see them. Or, you know, God forbid you're trying to like get a carry Rek'Sai. Well, that's the thing. I actually have gotten Rek'Sai to like carry status super late game by dumping a bunch of items onto him in an assassin comp and then making it an assassin. And then some silly stuff happened with like an Infinity Edge, but yeah, that's way too much work. Really, just think of Rek'Sai as a crappier Cho'Gath. And it's pretty mediocre. Brom's an early glacial. He's okay. Mainly it's just he's a glacial. That's the good thing. Is he the worst of the glacials? Probably. Yeah, he's like the least useful one. But I mean, if you also get a Leona thing, like the armor thing is nice with the what is it called, Guardian? So that's a thing. Yeah, really, he's just an early glacial. That's kind of all there is for Braum. Lysandre is actually quite good. Glacial Elemental is a thing. Elementalist is a thing. She obviously slots into that naturally. One of the few characters, again, who is an early game character, but if you like kind of invest in her, actually becomes quite good even by late game. You know, obviously she's outscaled by certain things, so you know, if you commit on her, you know, you're losing out potentially on like crazy late game stuff, but you know, you can always sell her to get the items back if you really want. But yeah, no, I'm generally somewhat impressed by her. Not the greatest character, but not terrible either. Alright, moving on to tier 2s. Generally not impressed with Zed, but I'm really not impressed with a lot of assassins. It tends to be a pretty gimmicky comp that kind of cuts through more or less experienced players and gets hard countered by certain things. But I don't know, like assassin comp isn't bad. I don't want to rag on it too much. It's actually pretty good, but you know, it's just assassin comp, and Zed is an okay assassin. Shen is generally underwhelming. He's a Blade Master, which is nice. If you only have him out, obviously he gets the ninja thing. We're going to talk about ninja later. Very not impressed with it overall. Now, I don't know, Shen exists, basically. Like, he's not the worst thing, he's not the best thing, he's there. Alright, moving on. Varus. I think Varus is quite good. You can build around him, let's say if you get a whole bunch of them early. Demons are good. I don't want to talk too much about demons because we're not talking about classes right now. And he himself is decent. The only thing, I mean, his ult is both good and bad. Like, it can deal a lot of damage, especially if it scythes through an entire team. It can do, like, it can end games on its own, but sometimes he just shoots it off into a weird direction. A lot of time late game when you're giving him super high attack speed, which he works really well with for the demon mana burn. You know, like, a lot of time you actually don't want him ulting because you just want him auto-attacking. So it's kind of a mixed bag with him, but yeah, he's generally very good and you can build around him starting very early. So he's kind of like one of those, well, you know, I have this character, maybe I can start going in this direction or think about going in this direction. Elise is trash, she's the worst character in the game, don't use her. I was about to say no, she's not, but then I realized no, she probably is. Like, even when I really need an extra demon or an extra shapeshifter, like, I'm very hesitant to stick her in. She is just such dead weight. Again, like, there's probably some way to make her work if you invest inhuman amounts of effort. But again, this game is all about consistency, not having to invest too much effort in something to get to work quickly. So, you know. Pike is just kind of on his own. He's an assassin, pretty basic. It seems somewhat underwhelming. Pike is stupid broken because of a specific item, Spear of Shojin, wasn't it? Yeah. So if you can get like double Spear of Shojin and then maybe like a Rage Blade or something on him, again, if you get a very specific setup, he breaks the game and will murder everyone. Though he's somewhat RNG, like he can shoot off in a weird direction and not have his stun work very well. Like he can get blown up right away. But yeah, usually if you get this actual setup on him, he will murder everything or keep everything permanently stun locked, and it's very dumb. So I suspect actually Spear is probably going to get nerfed, but maybe other characters that basically really break the game with Spear might get nerfed themselves. We'll see. But again, for now, as of the making of me talking about this stuff, he can be very silly, potentially. Let's see now. Lulu. Lulu is very good. Her weakest thing is that I guess she doesn't deal damage, but if you can get her buff going, like I call it machine gun Lulu, like really high attack speed with like, or really anything that allows her ult to go off over and over again, like her Rage Blade or again Spear, which again is going to get nerfed, so maybe this might not apply as much later or in the future. I shouldn't say it's going to. I suspect it would be nerfed at some point. What's that other thing? Seraph, stuff like that. If you can like always get her ult going, it's really dumb. So she's just one of those characters. And Yordle's again a little bit hard to get work, but you know things like Yordle Sork combos are a thing. So it can be quite nice. And yeah, I actually really like Lulu. I think she's very good and isn't used enough. But again, on her own, she just generally doesn't do things. But, you know, that's what supports are for, right? Okay, what's the... let's see now. What's your name? Ahri. Ahri's basically like a crappier Aurelian Soul. Her main strength is that she's... If you want to do a Wild Sork comp, it's going to include Ahri, basically. And Wild Sork is pretty good. Or Wild Sork plus, you know, a bunch of other things. It's very easy to combo these things into other things. So you can end up with like 5 different classes that also include Wild Sork, and you actually be quite effective. Ahri on her own, again, you know, with certain items, she's nice, but those items are probably just better on someone else. But then again, she's a pretty early game champion, so if you can get a high tier Ahri early, maybe you can do something with her. But you can also just shoot her orb off in a weird direction. It doesn't do very much, and so it's kind of a mixed bag. Okay, Blitzcrank is Blitzcrank. You can do some very weird gimmicky things. If someone is 100% dependent on that carry in the background, Blitzcrank is a pretty good answer to just pulling it out and getting it killed. Or just pulling it out and being annoying and CCing it up. Yeah, you guys know how Blitzcrank works. He's a thing on his own. Brawler's not bad. Brawler's, the actual class is quite good. It's very easy to get going. So if you need another Brawler and you also want to, you know, annihilate carries, he's a thing. So he has his uses. He's not bad. Alright, moving on to what is tier 3. Okay, Imperial Assassin. Let's see now. What's her name again? Katarina. Katarina's ult can straight up win fights. I think she's probably one of the... No, she's a really good assassin. Let's put it that way. Imperial is obviously nice if you want to get an Imperial thing going, even if they're just 2 or 4. Again, I've liked the common comps that you see a lot. Assassin is the one I've done the least, so I don't like talking about it too much, but I've certainly seen it a lot, and I've done it a few times. So yeah. I don't know, honestly, I just like notice Katarina spinning, and people don't even invest that much in terms of items on her. So, yeah, I don't know, maybe... I should probably try that one day. Like, invest a lot of things on Katarina to get her ult going off faster and just have her spin. Because it's really, really good. But then again, a lot of assassins have very good spells. Alright, so moving on. Tier 3. Ashe is extremely good. Like, a very, very good character. Mainly because she's Glacial plus Ranger, which, like, basically slot together. There are several characters that basically are kind of like bridge characters. So Ashe is like the glacial ranger bridge character because she's both. Nara, for example, is the wild shapeshifter bridge. Makes that a natural fit together. Like it's almost so no-brainer. It kind of feels dirty to do sometimes, but anyway, it's just very effective. Who else is there? There's a couple other examples, which I'll probably come across as we go along here. But, yeah, especially if you can get her attack speed up and pair her with a whole bunch of other rangers. They're just, like, constantly shooting. You know, with her glacial proc, she's always just stunning people. Her ult is also very good for just even more stun. Ashe is a very, very good character. If you can get her up and running, it almost basically informs you what you want to be looking for to almost build around. Well, not build around, but build in conjunction with. Volibear, I think he was nerfed recently, wasn't he? Regardless, he's still a glacial. Brawler is such an easy buff to do. You can get him as a very annoying front line, really. I don't see him used as much as reliant on his like claws for crazy damage, because I think that was the thing that got nerfed. But yeah, just get him as a tough frontliner to proc extra stuff and clog things up while your rangers in the background murder and stuff like that, or some kind of similar comp. I think Volibear is quite good. Also, he's another one of those characters that seems to defy the rarity of the tier he's in. I don't know what the hell it is. Maybe it's because he's not popular or something, but I see personally, and your mileage or obviously may vary on this, but I don't know if there's any thing to this, but personally I see a lot of Volibears. I don't know why, so it just makes it really easy to rank up Volibears. Alright, next tier 3. We got Kennen over here. Kennen can be good. Kennen seemed a lot better. Maybe he got nerfed, I don't know. Especially on the PvE when no one knew what they were doing, and you could kind of just sneak a Kennen in there and he would use his ult. And it seemed really powerful. Maybe the ult got nerfed. I don't really know. Of late, he seemed less impactful. Especially since, I don't know, Elementalist comps seem less common and common. Obviously, if you want a Yordle comp, he fits in there fairly easily. Like, it's not bad. I can think of other tier 3s I would want, but, you know, he's not bad. Maybe one day I should try and, like, build around him specific and, like, item the shit out of him, but... meh. Not a lot to say about him. Like, he can situationally very good. I don't know, I guess, like, he feels like a slightly less impactful... what's your face? Katarina up here. Okay, Demon Assassin Lady, Evelyn. Evelyn, tier 3, not bad. Pretty good. Her ult seems really inconsistent and weird. It, like, warps her out, and that can, like, mess up aggro, and can actually screw you over sometimes. Sometimes, like, it was bugged before, and used to just straight up not work sometimes. Yeah, I feel like that bug is still in there, but that aside... I don't know, the execute... I think we had an execute mechanic on it, and that seems pretty nice. Really, I like the fact that I guess she's demon more than anything, and the ult can theoretically sometimes be very, very impactful, but the inconsistency of it is just kind of meh. A lot of the time, I don't know, I just feel like something like an Akali, if you're doing Assassins, ends up being better and more consistent, but obviously she's a higher tier, so whatever. Okay character. Morgana. Morgana, I feel like, is an underrated character. I'm not sure, you know, again, like, what people's opinions are in general, but I don't hear people talk about Morgana very much. if you're doing Demon Sork, which naturally, okay, he's another bridge character, makes it very easy to do a relatively effective comp of Demon Sork. Plus, you know, maybe splash in some other things. She's really, really good. I've seen her without too much stuff on her. Relatively hard carry games. If she can get her ult off, it's fabulous. She's kind of like a slightly crappier Swain. But, I don't know, slightly crappier makes it seem like she's bad or something, but she's just really good. It doesn't seem like a priority pick for people, so I think you probably see more of them. Similarly, what's your name again? Aatrox. Aatrox seems like something people don't prioritize very much, but Aatrox deals stupid damage. I don't actually know why he's not more popular. Maybe because people don't like demons, maybe because he doesn't seem immediately really good at his initial tier, and he requires like a little bit to get going, like tiers and maybe some items. But if you can get him a bit survivable, and just get him in there and maybe like get him some way to get his mana going a bit faster, his ult hits really hard. Like, I've seen it clear out entire teams. It's not the biggest AoE, but it's big enough. It can sometimes catch like 3, maybe even if you're really lucky, 4 people. And it will cleave. So I'm actually becoming more and more of a fan of Aatrox as time goes on. Also, Blade Master is nice, clearly. Like, if you can get Blade Master going, you know, it's Blade Master. Alright, moving on, we got Shyvana Dragon. Probably one of the harder... Well, that's not true. I was about to say the harder shapeshifters to get working, but that's Elise, because Elise just sucks. Like, it's really nice if you can get the dragon combo going, but you don't always have the space for it if you're doing shapeshifters. But she's really good. She's a shapeshifter. Shapeshifters are generally speaking quite powerful. Yeah, just a nice character. Usually I'll prefer a Gnar, but she's okay. Tier 3 Gangplank. Gangplank sucks. Just don't do pirates. Well, again, very similar to Graves. Gangplank can be good. Has the potential to be better, but it requires too much work. Really? Like, if you're investing that much time and effort to get him to work, to have him work naturally without you forcing it is too unlikely, because again, the whole consistency thing I'm talking about. And again, it might seem like he's better than he is, because when he actually does work, somehow, it like feels good, you feel like a genius, and you figured out some crazy strat that no one's done or something. No, it's just, it got lucky. He's a bronze player being carried by, you know, diamond teammates. Just don't bother. You'll be happier if you don't try and experiment with Gangplank too much. Alright, next book. Man, this is taking longer than I thought. I guess I have more to talk about with each character than I did the last time I did this. Okay, Poppy. Poppy is... She's okay. If you're doing Yordle comp, you're gonna have a very sturdy tank, and especially if you pair it with Knights. Granted, that can run into some offense. That can run into some issues. We're not talking about Yordles yet. Poppy's okay. She's okay. I don't have much to say about her beyond that. Vhagar, I've seen people do some funny stuff where they make him like machine gun Yordle. What's it called? Vhagar. Similar to how I was talking about machine gun Lulu, except instead of buffing people and knocking them up, he just shoots people and they die. I haven't tested it myself. It seems like it's kind of difficult to get working, but I don't know. He's okay. Fits very, very naturally into the Yordle Sork thing, you know, because there are 2 Yordle Sorks. So, alright, so moving on. We already did Kennen, right? Because he's multiple classes? Yeah, there we go. Next tier 3 is Rengar. Rengar feels like... He just feels very underwhelming. As a result, I haven't tested him too much. He generally kind of like, every time I end up using him, it's just sort of like, I really need a wild character, and you're just going to be there to fill that slot. Or I really need another assassin. And that's kind of it. It's probably not fair for me to pronounce him like a really terrible character without testing too much more on him, but I haven't really seen anyone else use him either. So again, either there's some kind of really crazy secret hidden tech, or he's just underwhelming. I'm inclined to believe the latter is more likely, but is the worst assassin and wild for his tier. Yeah, he definitely seems underwhelming. So that's why I'm more inclined to think he sucks, but I didn't really give him a fair shake because I think he sucks. Just, you know, sort of self-perpetuating cycle. But anyway, whatever. Moving on. We're going to go tier 4s next. All right, Leona. Leona is good because she's a noble, and by the time you're getting close to completing the noble, you're like, man, I just need a Leona and a Kale, so I'm going to slot a Leona in. And granted, her ult is pretty good. She reminds me of Sejuani. So they're very similar in that respect. Not a lot, but sometimes I'll just purely for the Guardian, I'll grab her because I'm already running Glacial and I don't, you know, I just have an extra slot and a bunch of Leonas are showing up, and why not make someone tanky or a bunch of people tankier? So yeah, I don't know, she's not bad. She's, yeah, I don't know, in that sense she's very supportish. Her ult's pretty good. And she just slots into the noble thing, like all nobles. So okay, but probably not as a character the most impactful purple tier character, or tier 4. Alright, moving on. Cho'Gath. Cho'Gath's ult is amazing. I suspect Cho'Gath is going to be nerfed. I think he's one of the better characters in the game that just come as is. He might not, well, I've never actually done the whole spear Rageblade style thing, or like maybe spear, you know, rapid fire cannon or something like that. Like, I'm sure he can do some really crazy things like that. I just never got around to actually doing it myself. Just because, yeah, like, just permastun could potentially be a thing, like I was talking how it is with Pike. But Void Brawler, yeah. Like, Void is a very natural... It's going to buff everyone else on the team. Like, let's say I'm very dependent on a specific AD carry to be doing damage, and he's kind of getting screwed over a bit by, like, a very tanky team or something like that. You know, negate armor. They're going to deal more damage. And on top of that, he can become very tough with Brawler. Brawler is very easy to do. So yeah, good, easy to work with all, like most team comps or a lot of team comp classes. And he's just a good character. Whenever yeah, because I suspect Spear is going to get nerfed. So again, I don't want to talk about that too much right now. I suppose it's worth noting, certainly, but... Anyway, Cho'Gath's one of the top tier characters in terms of just how easy he is to work with everything, and he's just good. Draven obviously not as good as he was in the beta because he was the most broken thing in the game for a while. He's still very good. You know, obviously what makes him good is, well, he's just a hard-hitting AD carry who, you know, makes himself scale. Plus he's Blade Master plus Imperial. If you get Blade Master Imperial going with a Draven you've invested heavily in, he can still hard carry games. Not a lot to talk about Draven, just solid stats, good, makes himself strong with all his classes. Solid pick if you want to go that route. You know, if you just plunk a Draven down on his own, you know, it's not the greatest thing in the universe. Certainly, again, like, yeah, again, in beta, when it was League of Draven, and all you had to do is whoever got the Draven won kind of thing, like, Draven on his own without any buffs would just murder things, but, I wonder if it was a glitch. He seems so powerful. But anyway, enough about beta Draven. Draven's just good. Sejuani is quite good. Naturally slots into Glacial. You know, if you can happen to get another Knight in there, get slightly tankier, her ult is very good. I have never tried the spear, whatever combo thing with her specifically. I've gotten close to trying it. I think I put a spear and like attack speed on her or something at tier 2. And even then I was getting multiple ults off per fight. I think one time I got like 5 ults off for fight because I had like a very low damage team or something, and she just clogged things up forever. Sejuani, very, very good, because great ult, is tanky, works with Glacial. Glacial is just as a class good, but we'll talk about that later. Man, I got a lot of stuff to talk about still. Jesus Christ, it's gonna be like a 3-hour video. Alright, so next we have Kindred. Kindred is extremely good because her ult is great, and again, her classes. Phantom is just such an easy thing. I'm not actually sure who it targets. I think it's random. I probably should have looked this up specifically. It just says set an enemy HP to 100 at star. I think it's random. I can't find any rhyme or reason to it. It doesn't seem to be like closest to furthest or anything. You just like pick something. So, I mean, that can obviously be very good, and I mean, really, no matter who it targets, it's probably going to be decent, unless, you know, you hit the one tier 1 character they have as, like, the fodder to buff something or something like that. But, yeah, Kindred's just good. Rangers are good. Rangers work with a lot of things. Very, very solid tier 4 character. And of course Phantom, because Phantom is the global everyone can pick it easy buff. Especially if you got a whole bunch of Mordekaisers early. It's like, well, Mordekaiser's already, you know, strong, let's throw in a Kindred. Okay, let's see now. Next thing is Akali. Akali is probably she feels like she's the best assassin. I'm really disappointed in the one time I tried to like really make her the hyper carry of the team because I gave her extra range with a rapid fire cannon. And don't do this because what happens is she stands out of people's range or she stands at like range because her auto attack gets double range, but then her ult misses, which is her entire point. So she basically stands there auto attacking and then flubbing her ult. And it was really shitty and unfortunate because I probably would have won that game, but I lost because of that. But if you don't do that, I suspect she can be, like, I don't know, she just seems really, really effective. Naturally slots into the assassin comp. It's really just kind of the ninja's whatever, but we'll talk about that in a bit. She's just good. Yeah. If you're doing assassins, she's good. If you're not doing assassins, she's probably still okay. I just don't tend to like to mix in the odd assassin for no reason, so... Alright, moving on. We got Brand. Brand is quite good. If you're doing demon comp, usually you don't want too many demons, so he's not the greatest for being like an extra demon for the sake of being demon, because what, you know, mana burn on him, whatever. His ult, if it gets going, is fantastic. If you're already running sorcerers, and you can kind of get his ult hitting for even more, it's really, really good. Brand's just pretty good. What was his other type again? He was like demon or elementalist. Yeah, so yeah, I know I prefer him to Kennen personally. So you know, elementals can be nice. You know, elementalist as a class usually isn't the kind of thing that wins you games, but you only need 3, so yeah, Brand's just nice. Not a lot to say about him beyond that. Aurelian Soul is amazing. As I said, she's like a better what's your face? Ari, because his ult, and this is super common. I'm sure, you know, if you've played this game more than twice, you've seen someone do this. Aurelian Soul with spear, whatever. Again, that's probably gonna get nerfed. But yeah, he just keeps doing that pah thing through the team over and over again, and he alone will basically win games if that gets going. The whole dragon thing is nice. Sork is very nice. So he easily works with sorcerers. Yeah, obviously being immune to magic is quite nice. So he, in a sense, he almost kind of counters himself. And if you know, just, yeah, if you have Shybanas for whatever reason, she's immune to magic. Great, you know. It's like a free Negatron cloak thing, you know, whatever, the double Negatron cloak, except better because that's only 80-something%, 83%. Alright, next tier 4. Gnar. Gnar is extremely good. He is the bridge character, as I mentioned before, between Wild and Shapeshifter, which I said naturally work together. I guess they almost naturally work together because of him. Gnar will hard carry games. Gnar, I wouldn't be surprised if they nerfed him. He's like, his potential carry is so good. Granted, and there's the weakness of maybe he might not transform when he's in a shitty tiny state, maybe he'll die, but man, Gnar is one of the scarier characters once he transforms. So just very, very good. That's all the tier 4s, right? So, okay, there are not too many tier 5s, so yeah, obviously they get faster. Moving on, Anivia. Of all the tier 5s, I mean, she's okay. If you want an extra glacial, what ends up happening, what I find happens a lot of the times is you get a whole bunch of glacials. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So let's say, you know, you get a glacial hammer or whatever it was called, and you know you've put it on one of your rangers because you're doing glacial ranger because they attack faster. So you already have all the glacials or have an excessive amount of glacials. What I find happens a lot of the times, she ends up replacing one of the shittier glacials like Lysandra or something. Sometimes even Braum if he doesn't happen to be a high rank. But usually the issue with glacials is you kind of want a clogging up the backline style thing. So she's good. And obviously like the elemental thing, if you can get that going as well. By the time she shows up, it's just like sort of like the extra goblin showing up is you know, kind of whatever, but I don't know, she can be good. I don't want to rag on Anivia too much. She's just like a rare thing that's good. Oh, I missed a whole bunch. I missed the first row. Well, we'll do it out of order. Anyway, so yeah, nice character, but there's crazier things in tier 5, I guess. Okay, Kale. Kale is dumb because she's the thing that completes the noble comp. If you can get her ult going off over and over again, it'll win you games. She doesn't even have to be in the noble comp to be good, although obviously it's ideal. If you just have this free slot, put in Kale. Why not, right? If you don't like really need the extra final slot to like complete a thing, like let's say you have, I don't know, an extra demon you don't want or something like that, just sitting there, very good extra character to have in. Knight is kind of whatever, but yeah, it makes the noble comp. She's like the rare piece of, I don't know, is any piece of the Exodia thing, anyone plays Yu-Gi-Oh! Rare or not? I don't know. But yeah, she completes noble comp and is good. Alright, Swain. Swain is, I feel, like one of those low-key, I don't want to say like, what is it called? What do people call it when something's like stealth broken? Because I don't necessarily think he's maybe not broken, but he's really, really good, and I think he's not prioritized, again, like a lot of demons. Because Swain will, like, maybe not hard carry games, but he is fantastically good. I would just say, in the right comp, you could maybe make an argument that he's the best tier 5. Anyway, he's really, really good. Experiment with him. If you got, like, just plunking him down obviously on his own, maybe not the greatest thing. But, you know, it's very easy to fit him into a lot of comps, and he's really good. Yeah, sleeper OP. That's the thing. That's the phrase for it. Again, I don't know if I want to, like, state that exactly. Maybe people will figure out or know he's good. I don't know, but I feel like he's just kind of a low-key, hard-working kind of character. That he's sort of a workhorse. He's really good. Okay, Phantom, what's your name? Karthus? Karthus, I feel like, is of all the tier 5s, might be the hardest to get working. I don't know. It just sort of seems like maybe he'll replace a Mordekaiser, but if you still have a Mordekaiser around by late game, he's usually already tier 3, and you kind of want him to just be clogging things up. Like, if you need another, like, you really need a Phantom Sork, I guess that's the thing. He can be really good, don't get me wrong. If you have a really strong backline and he just sits back there and goes ult, he will hard carry on his own. But again, he's somewhat situational. But yeah, he's not bad, I guess. He is a rare. Like, you know, that's the thing. Like, none of the rare characters, the legendary, whatever you want to call it, are bad. So I guess I don't know, maybe it's a bit similar to Anivia in that sense. It is annoying that he can actually, like, his ult gets interrupted by stuns and CC and stuff like that. So, yeah, I've fought people that are using Karthus, and then I'm running Glacial, and then every time he tries to get the ult off, someone snipes him with, you know, maybe an Ashe might hit him with a stray arrow or something, and it gets interrupted. I think I've seen, like, I did that to, like, a Karthus, like, 2 or 3 times. I think twice in a single match, and he didn't get a single ult off. So yeah, I don't know, he'd be really good if you couldn't interrupt his ult, or his ult persisted through him dying and he got off like a final ult or something. But, yeah, there's that. Alright, Yasuo, not a lot to say about Yasuo. He's like, well, I mean, he's Exile, right? He's meant to just work on his own. Really ideal if you got the Blade Master thing going on. I mean, it works with any item kind of set. You make him tanky, so he just kind of goes apeshit faster and gets Blade Master procs. Obviously you want him standing off on his own to double his hit points. Yasuo is just really, really convenient and good. Much like kind of, I guess, putting in a Kale for the sake of putting in a Kale. Yasuo works that way, but probably better. But yeah, ideally with a Blade Master or just, you know, and it's not even that hard to get 3 Blade Masters. Sometimes I guess it is, but if you already happen to have 2 or can easily, you know, have 1 and can slot in an extra, or you have an item to turn someone into Blade Master, whatever. Yasuo can potentially be fantastically good. Yeah, Yasuo works with everything, you know. If you have some items, especially if you have some items left or want to sell some stuff, put it on Yasuo, you probably won't go wrong. Alright, so that is all the individual characters over the classes. Let's start with the thing I dislike the most about the game. Well, not about the game, but the class I dislike the most, the nobles, because I think it's like this brainless. It plays itself. Like the game has almost played itself comp. It's either the game gave you all the nobles and you were strong enough to carry through yourself through the early and mid game, and then you get the kale and the the Eon and the kale, and then you get nobles, and the nobles generally win. I mean, there are comps that beat it. For example, any kind of super heavy CC like glacial thing can probably, yeah, glacial rangers will probably beat it so long as the glacial rangers are semi-strong. I've seen like what is it, like weird mishmash synergy teams can beat it that are very strong. For example, like Wild Demon Sork shapeshifter thing that happens to have like the perfect synergy. That'll be nobles. Yeah, really anything with high DPS or shutdown potential, and just kind of is good at everything will beat it. But yeah, nobles is just kind of like, it's the comp that plays itself. I call with the examples. You play Magic the Gathering, it feels like slivers. It's just like you get slivers, you play slivers. Slivers deal 3 things. I don't know. I just feel like it's lame, but it's good. I don't like the RNG in the 3-man early, what I call the Demacian Gank Squad. You know, when you get your Vayne, you get your... it feels like almost like the tutorial thing, or pre-con deck or something. Like you get your Vayne, you get your Fiora, you get your Garen, you sit out there. RNG says Garen is the one guy who got the Noble buff, and he sits there and tanks everything, and you win early as a result of that. So... I don't know, I think it's pretty silly, but it's good. Don't get me wrong, it's good. If you can get nobles, the game says you're more likely to win. Here are some nobles. Okay, Void. Void is more like kind of a buff stick thing. I kind of touched on that earlier. It's got some decent characters in it. Again, if you can get Kassadin going, he's kind of like that, yeah, tank guy, tank-ish. Shut down Sork. The unfortunate thing is, like, you probably got to use a Rek'Sai, but at least Rek'Sai has a brawler, so you got brawlers in there. Rek'Sai is mainly there to buff brawlers. Cho'Gath is really good, so you got like one, okay. Probably have a lot of Kassadins lying around because he's common. And you got your meh, I'm filler, and you got your thing. Now, unfortunately, you can't use Spatula to make Void, at least as of making of this, but. Yeah, it's like just kind of a nice buff stick class. Imperial, it's quite nice. Have I ever done a full Imperial? I don't think I've ever actually bothered doing it personally. I've heard good things about it. I don't know if I've ever seen anyone actually do a full Imperial comp. It seems kind of weird to me. Really, when you only just need 2, because any 2 Imperials will be quite good, and it'll be much easier to work. Yeah, like I mean, it's kind of annoying when you, let's say, have a super, carry Draven and a no-item Darius, and he's just there to, create the buff, and then the Darius gets the Imperial buff. But generally speaking, the Imperial buff can kind of go on anyone, and it's fine. So I find that the best utility on it is just, yeah, it's almost like it's an extra class that you slot into something you're already doing, unlike Nobles, which is its own thing. Although Nobles can be a thing you can slot in for whatever reason, but, I tend to use it that way personally. It's okay. Okay, Glacial. Glacial is super consistently good. It really reminds me, again, of Wild Shapeshifter, in the sense that, yeah, Wild Ranger is just... It's a thing that's good, and they fit together. It's relatively easy to do, and it's consistent, and you tend to see a lot of them. And it's just really good, because it'll clog things up. It can also do an okay amount of damage. But yeah, the Glacial passive is just fantastic. So, Glacial's great. Consistency, right? Consistency is what you need in Teamfight Tactics. Okay, Phantom, we talked about that. It's like a buff stick. If you have it, great. The characters in there are pretty good. It's like Void in that sense. Just easier to do. Ninja is one of the crappier classes, I feel like, just because it's so weird. Like, if you're already doing Assassin, and then on top of that, with an item, you can turn one of these characters into an Assassin, it becomes easier. I mean, AD is nice, I guess, but just in order to get it all working, it's... Okay, let me put it this way. It's hard to get to work because of just, you know, where the characters are showing up and having them work together because of the isolate, you know, the individual bonus thing. Where they won't work beyond 1, so you need like 1 or 4. And when you finally do it, a lot of classes, you know, it's just kind of like, oh, I hit that threshold, huge impact, I'm suddenly winning. Ninjas are just kind of like, I'm slightly better. So, yeah, it's like, if you happen to be able to do it already with Assassins, great, but generally speaking, it's a very underwhelming class. Hypercast is amusing. Yeah, it's pretty amusing. He's just like, it's not the most amazing thing, but it's amusing. Okay, oh, a link to this page. This one is, I think, slightly out of date, if I recall correctly, but it's mainly in this part here, so this whole rarity part. But this is, I believe, all up to date. I haven't actually been reading this, because I just know what they do. But anyway. Where was I? We just didn't use... Okay, Demon. Demon is, as I kind of was talking about earlier, I feel like it seems like it's underrated. Not a lot of people use it, and it's quite effective. I'm not saying it's the best thing in the world. I think maybe some people don't think it's very good, if I had to guess, because people try to overemphasize Demon. It's actually more of a buff stick. Much like Phantom and Void. You only really need, like, 2 demons and have a Varus and have him just shooting people to melt their mana. If you obviously have 4, you know, it's still not bad. The thing about demon is either the more you get it, it's not exactly all that useful unless you don't have too many demons. But yeah, if you have a Varus with a lot of attack speed, he's like constantly mana burns anyway, so having a higher percentage is kind of pointless. But again, I guess it depends on really what you're doing. Like if you only have, let's say, I don't know, the Morgana plus a brand or something, yeah, maybe, you know, it's not all that useful, but I think it's very easy to slot into other things. It works naturally with Sorcerer a lot of the time because of the bridge character of Morgana, and it contains just a lot of generally good characters, which I think don't get enough credit. Okay, Dragon, nothing to say about Dragon. It makes the dragons magic immune. If you happen to be able to do it, great. I wouldn't prioritize it and have it be this game-changing thing on its own. It's just the characters in it are extremely good and may or may not work together. But very easy to get working, so another kind of... It's a self-contained buff stick, I guess. Alright, Pirates. Pirates are just frustrating. Yeah, you can do the economy thing really early. Late game, it's generally just going to hold you back. I mean, you can sort of do it if you have nothing else. The dream scenario with the pirate is, yeah, you just get 3 pirates early, you sandbag, take a lot of damage, you get a whole bunch of, you know, there's nothing clever about this, it's just how it plays out. You know, it's very intuitive. If you want to play that way, yeah, just get the crap beaten out of you, get all first pick on the carousel over and over again. And you get extra money, and then you sell all the stuff, and hopefully in the meantime you've constructed something that's going to work, and you didn't take too much damage and you don't die. I'm just generally really not impressed with it, but who knows, maybe we'll see a pirate meta one day where everyone does this, and you know, you're just sandbagging 50% of the game. It just sounds very boring in general as well. Okay, Yordles. Yordles are one of those things I feel get too much credit. People talk about, oh my god, the Yordles are so great. They're not bad. I've done Yordle comp numerous times. I think it's okay, especially to Yordle sort because it's so easy. They just tend to get crushed by magic because it's all dependent on dodging physical. So really all it takes is just, and I'll talk about more magic stuff in a bit, but you know, it'll ruin people that are entirely dependent on their physical damage, like they're all rangers in the back with mediocre glacial frontline. You know, or super, you know, auto attack dependent teams. Yeah, it's great versus that. But man, you run into that one magic damage team, you're not winning that game. They'll ruin you. Now, granted, of course, you can get, the double Negatron cloak item and become very, a specific character becomes really hard to kill. Or let's say you prioritize getting 4 Negatron cloaks, and you get the magic. There was the 83% reduction item on 2 characters. Okay, whatever, but keep in mind you had to get 4 cloaks. Again, I'm not saying it's bad, it's nice, but also at the same time, how it scales into the game, you're probably taking a lot of damage because it isn't naturally strong. And it's kind of reliant on other things to really carry it for a while, and then it kind of turns into its own thing. And it can go technically a lot of directions, so a lot of the time what you see is just 3 Yordles, and then, Yordle, Sork, and then something else tends to be okay. But the full Yordle thing, I'm not the biggest fan of, personally. But again, it's not bad. I don't want to say it's terrible. You can win with it. Alright, moving on. Exile, we talked about it. Exile's Exile, whatever. Wild is very good early for 2 characters because, everyone has done this before because the game shoves it down your throat. Warwick plus Nidalee. It's just, they buff each other. It's pretty good. Nidalee's really good early game. Warwick's a buff stick early game. Ari's pretty common. And generally it kind of stays there for a while because the problem with the 4-person... And again, hold on. Before we talk about what sucks about Wild, let's just say I overall think Wild is really, really good. Just because it naturally mixes with things. Wild's weakness is it just kind of stays at 2 for a while because having 4 Wild is pointless for most of the game, or basically all of the early game, because in order to get it, you probably don't have too many characters on your team, and basically all the characters that are already Wild anyway are just rebuffing themselves, so the 4-man Wild buff is pointless. Even if you put it on a 5th character, it's just not a lot of point. But eventually, what it ends up becoming is it's just really good, and then it's a buff stick for everyone, and Wild works with so many things. It works with Sork because of this Ari. It works with Wild because of, Shapeshifter because of Gnar, who I've harped on about a million times now. It works with Brawlers very naturally and easily because of, you. I don't know. It's just kind of like... Wild is like a really, really good sauce, I guess. A sauce that you can eat on its own in small quantities. I don't know. Come up with a better analogy on your own. I'm not here. I'm not getting paid for this. I'm not getting paid to come up with analogies. Alright, Robot. There's nothing to talk about. Robot's Robot. It's like Exile. Except early game, I guess. I don't know. Alright, Knights. I have never actually done a full Knight comp, now that I think of it. It's probably okay. I don't know, generally speaking, Knights just tend to get outscaled if you want to do nothing but Knights. Like, it makes them slightly tankier. Obviously, they get ruined by magic. I mean, Knights are good just to clog things up, but usually, you just find better things to do with what you have. I mean, it just keeps giving you Knights, sure, it can be a thing. And it's very easy to make Knights because of the item, Knight's Vow, but... Yeah, I mean, especially by late game, reduces 80 damage, it's meh. You're probably running into stuff that's just doing ridiculous damage by that point, even in auto attack format, or, magic, or just there's probably a variety of things coming out at you. It's just, I don't know, Knights just, again, feels more like a buff stick, but one of the less important buff sticks. But all the characters on it are relatively solid, so, yeah. Guardian is just kind of incidental. If it's like you got the space for it, yeah, why not? It's buff stick. I've heard people say the buff will double stack on people touching both the characters. I have not confirmed that myself. I've been using them like that on the assumption that it may or may not. And it just happens naturally anyway, typically how you space the things. But yeah, Guardian's Guardian. I wouldn't really go out of my way to do it, but if you can manage it, you got the space, you're already doing, let's say, Glacial or Noble or something like that, why not? Yeah, there's not a lot you do with Knights. Alright, like I said, Brawler, another easy buff stick thing. A lot of the time, yeah, you'll have like Wild with Brawlers, pretty easy. Really, any of these characters that you happen to be using, their other type just naturally fit with Brawler. It makes for a very easy and strong front line. even, you know, in either variety, the 2-man variety, the 4-man variety, and it's pretty easy to do. Just a lot of the time. And, like, some of these characters are quite good. Blitzcrank's weird and situational. Rek'Sai's kind of meh. Warwick is, you know, he's very easy to do with Wild, obviously. Volibear, because of the glacial thing, and I still think he's quite good. And, well, mainly because of his classes, and we talked about Cho'Gath. So, yeah, Brawlers just good, largely good-ish characters in an effective buff stick class. So again, flexible consistency. That's what I'm saying is good. Gunslingers I talked about earlier. I think they're bootleg rangers. On average, they're all worse than their ranger counterparts. They do very similar things. Yeah, Tristana's meh. Graves is very situational, so overall meh. Lucian's not bad. I think if you gotta go, like, I've had games where Lucian will hard carry. Gangplank, again, very meh. Oh, did I talk about Miss Fortune as an individual character? I think I actually missed her, so I may as well talk about her. Miss Fortune is pretty good, but her big drawback is that she's a gunslinger and a pirate. And you're probably still not running pirates by late game. I don't think money's gonna matter at that point. Either your team comp, by the time she's showing up, is really good at murdering things, or it isn't and you die. A lot of the time I'll use Miss Fortune as I happen to have a very strong Lucian and I have a double gunslinger thing going, and I'll slot out the other gunslinger I was using, usually a Tristana. So yeah, basically Miss Fortune ends up being a Tristana replacement a lot of the time for me. So that's how I use that. Yeah, a lot of the time I think the gunslinger is probably the most realistically useful at a two-person buff stick. So yeah, that's really all I have to say about it. Ranger is good all the way through, and every single character here is good and can go a multiple of directions. The only one that's kind of the odd one out is Vayne, because Vayne, like, is basically the other direction. Basically, if you're building around, not building around, but Vayne's doing something, it's because she wants to be part of the noble comp. So a lot of the time, if you're doing ranger plus something else, or rather noble, it's very hard to get to work with rangers because of, like, the number of characters and all that. Like, I'm sure you could do it, but it just seems very awkward. So yeah, Vayne's a little bit out there. She's oftentimes just a straight up buff stick for as a ranger thing. Varus also a lot of the time ends up being kind of a buff stick, because usually, again, it's ranger glacial. Well, actually, now that I think of it, yeah, I guess all these other characters tend to be buff sticks. Really, it's just the only character that naturally works with kind of almost a pre-con style comp is Vayne, because of the glacial ranger thing, and the other characters are just really there. But you know, Kinder's inherently a buff stick because of Phantom. Now you can slot in, I guess, another demon and just have, you know, have like a 2-demon ranger thing going. I think I've done that with Glacial. That seems like it'd be quite good. Yeah, Ranger's is a very, very powerful class because people just go in apeshit with shooting, and they are your damage. But yeah, Glacial, you know, no-brainer comp. Consistency, good, usual, etc., etc. Elementalist is a class. Elementalists are generally pretty good. It's nice to get an extra golem out there if your team is not the sturdiest. Like, let's say you've gone, you know, I don't know, Elemental Sork or Elemental Glacial, or, well, I guess Elemental Glacial would be super sturdy anyway, but yeah, I don't know, it's nice. There's nothing really, it's just a big golem that shows up. It's not gonna hard carry you as a comp, but Elementalists generally tend to be pretty good and can carry. They're not my favorite because it's pretty basic, but they're not bad. Okay, Sork. Sork is very good as a completed comp or as a buff stick. A lot of the characters are very easy to use in a wide variety of team comps. Like I said, much similar to Wild, so Sork is a very solid choice. I don't think there's a bad character in here. Yeah. Just so many characters work with so many things. Like, maybe on their own, as just individual characters, Caston can sometimes be okay, sometimes not so great. What's her name? Ari is not... Why do I keep forgetting Ari's name? Ari is maybe not the greatest. Lulu's good. Vhagar can be good. Morgana is really good, like underrated good, I think. Everyone knows her, and Soul's dumb. I guess you're a bit weird, but you're also still good. And Karthus, so yeah. Sork's great. Alright, Blade Master. Blade Master basically is just kind of like a lot of shit. Blade Master is annoying because it's a lot of shitty characters to get it work, but it's so good on certain characters when it does work. And I'm sure you know the characters I mean, namely the two rare people, Draven, Yesel. Like, you get Blade Master working and, you know, a couple items on these characters, they will hard carry. There's no great mysteries about Blade Master. It's kind of overkill to go 6, usually unless you go, like, you get a whole bunch of Blade Master items. Was it Blades of the Rune King? So, yeah, now... It's, again, because I like Aatrox, I think it's pretty good on him just really as... He's not even really an auto attacker is the thing. It's just to actually get his spells going faster. But yeah, I don't like the other three. Fiora, Shen, and Gangplank. So yeah, it's more so just annoying to have to, like, it's almost like you're paying the Blade Master tax until you get the carry good Blade Masters. So a good class situationally for obvious reasons. Okay, Assassins. You know, obviously this comes in two varieties: the all assassin comp, or like there are some assassins, the 3 assassins in there who kind of buff each other, and you have something else going. It fairly naturally pairs with Void. You know, I'm sure you guys all know the Assassin Void comp. So I think Assassins overall pretty good. They can run into some roadblocks that ruin them. It's not necessarily the easiest thing to get going because people seem to like Assassins. There tends to be a lot of competition for the Assassin characters. I feel like Assassins, probably in the long run, their best use is going to be like 3 Assassins. And a whole bunch of other things going. The problem is I've only ever attempted this twice, and it's really confusing and hard to kind of get working because there's so much stuff going on, and your bar tends to fill up with characters. What was the last time I tried to do it was something weird like Void, 3 Assassin. Oh, and the main problem was that, like, the character I wanted to be tier 3 didn't happen. I was hard stuck on tier 2 Rek'Sai, or Rek'Sai, what the hell is your name again? Kha'Zix? Demon, partial Sork. It was so close to working. It was going to be a work of art when it happened, but it didn't. But I don't know. Assassins just work. They work innately, and I think there's probably a lot of future with doing a bunch of weird things with them. Hello, Mr. Burrito. Just kind of explaining all the classes here. I'll be able to talk with you guys in a more normal sense in just a moment because I'm almost done. So, yeah, Assassins. Basic stuff, not bad. Alright, Shapeshifters. Shapeshifters will hard carry games. I've been talking about buff sticks. Oddly enough, like, the Shapeshifter thing itself is a buff stick. But it basically becomes the central point of a team. Because it's almost like you're buffing Shapeshifters to get them to do their Shapeshifter thing, and they will carry the game for you. I guess they're kind of similar to the whole Elementalist thing, where Elementalists can hard carry a game as characters. You know, as I was mentioning earlier, just Gnar transforming and running into a team and like stunning all of them, and the ones he's transforming to stupid damage, especially if you've got items. You guys have all seen that. It's like, I'm winning! Oh wait, no, Gnar transformed, now I lost. Nidalee kind of does that to a lesser extent. I mean, she does that early and then can still sort of do that late game, especially if you put items on her. So basically, yeah, Nidalee is like almost like a lesser Gnar, but, you know, is obviously more common, so you know, that's a given. Really, the only shitty shapeshifter is Elise. I feel like if Elise was actually good, the shapeshifter kind of class would be overpowered because it would be too easy to get going. And then you could easily pair Demon with it for just a little bit of extra thing. So for that sense, it's probably a good thing that Elise is you know, by my estimation, the worst character in the game. Shyvana is really good. I feel like she's not quite as good as Gnar, but you know, she's less common. She gets the whole dragon thing. We talked about Gnar. Wild makes it just really easy. And yeah, Swain is just also stupid good. So shapeshifters are great. They just need a bit of time to get going, is the thing. And they do have the weakness in the sense they do have to transform, so if you don't have a front line or some way to get them to transform really quickly, through buffs from other characters like Wild, or yeah, just a front line that just like tanks things up and they sit there and they can kind of do their thing. Obviously that's vulnerable to assassins, they would just jump back, they won't kill them before they transform, so it does have vulnerabilities, but shapeshifters obviously are just generally pretty good. Alright, I believe that I have covered every single character and every single class. I feel like I've been talking for like an hour. Does anyone know how long I've been talking? Also, I just realized my webcam was covering up these things, but I was... You guys see, the only things you missed, I guess, were Shen right here, Aatrox here. You can kind of see the rest. And some of the shapeshifters, so Nidalee and the shitty character. Elise. So yeah, those are my thoughts on every character and every class. Obviously, this is not the definitive word of God here. I feel like I'm on the right track with most of this. Well, I feel like I'm at least on the right track with all of it. You know, there's obviously room for debate in some things, and maybe I didn't fully state all my thoughts and everything, so maybe some things are better than I made them sound, and some things are probably worse than I made them sound. But I think that's the rough idea. And yeah, thanks for watching. The Ponce takes way too long to explain everything in the game.